Hey there, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Brooks. Join me as I sit down and chat with co-hosts, friends, and carefully curated guests and talk about all the things that empower you to become your best and most confident self. So, let's get started. How do you trust yourself again when part of the reason you don't trust yourself is because of your own track record? Lately, I've been sitting with that question because we hear so much about self-confidence and self-trust. And even I've talked about confidence for years. I mean, that's what this whole podcast is all about, becoming the confident woman. But here's a part of this conversation I don't think we talk out loud enough. Maybe it's because it's easier said than done. It's easy to tell somebody to believe in herself, trust herself, listen to herself, follow what she knows, until she's sitting there thinking, okay, but what if I don't trust me? What if I have enough history with myself to know I haven't always made the best decisions? I've gotten things wrong, made some very costly mistakes, broken promises to myself, ignored something I knew because I didn't want it to be true. And other times, I've been so afraid of getting something wrong that I've questioned myself to death and asked everybody around me what they thought because I was hoping somebody else would sound certain enough that I could just borrow their certainty, even for a little while. And you start thinking, your picker is all. And whatever you choose or do is probably going to be the wrong thing. So little by little, you start outsourcing your discernment and your authority. And I think that's where self-confidence and self-trust starts getting tangled together. Because confidence isn't just walking into a room like you own it, speaking up, taking some big scary leap, or proving how much you can produce, perform, or achieve. There's a much more private, deep, intimate relationship happening underneath all of that, which is whether I believe myself. Does my own word mean anything to me? When I say I'm going to do something, do I trust myself to follow through? Or have I said it so many times that even I'm like, yeah, okay, Rachel, we'll see. And believe me, I'm definitely not saying that I've mastered this because I most certainly haven't. I'm still unpacking some of it in real time, especially because I'm finding myself stepping into so many areas of newness where I'm uncertain and sometimes wondering, what the heck am I even doing? And that's where we find that this erosion, it's a slow creeping in. You tell yourself you're going to start taking care of yourself, and you don't. You know you need to have the conversation, and you keep avoiding it. You make a decision and then spend the next few days asking everybody you know whether they think you made the right one. Other times, it's smaller. Something doesn't sit right, but somebody else sounds more certain. So you assume they probably know better. After a while, your mind starts collecting all of that as evidence. I said I was going to do this and I didn't. I thought that was right and it wasn't. I trusted that person and look what happened. Oh man, you see where I'm going with all this? So now somebody says, trust yourself. And you're sitting there thinking, based on what? Look at my track record. So I totally get this. And I think that's the part of why so many of us start looking outside of ourselves for the next blueprint, the next person, the next strategy, somebody who seems to know exactly what to do when we don't. I've done it. I bought the programs, hired the coaches, followed the strategists, asked for the advice. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that because we need support and wisdom. But I've also had to ask myself why I wanted somebody else's answer so badly sometimes. And if I'm being honest here, part of it is because making the decision myself meant I had to live with the possibility that I could be wrong. And that's a whole different conversation when you really sit with it. Because maybe the problem isn't that you don't know what to do. Maybe you're just terrified of what you'll do to yourself if you choose and it doesn't work. I think we can become really unforgiving towards ourselves in ways we would never be with someone we love. We make one decision that doesn't work, and somehow it becomes a statement about our judgment. We don't follow through, and now we're inconsistent. Something goes wrong, and instead of asking what happened, what we learned, or what we could do differently, we use it as proof of something much bigger about who we are. That's where guilt and shame start getting mixed together. And I don't want to turn this into one of those conversations where nothing is ever our fault. But sometimes we make bad decisions. We just have to accept that. Sometimes we knew better. And sometimes we ignored what God was showing us, or let fear, pride, insecurity, or even our ego make that decision for us. There are things we need to own, repair, apologize for, change, or deal with because responsibility matters. But there's a difference between saying, I made a decision I regret, and deciding, I can't trust myself. At some point, what happened becomes who we believe we are. And now, we're no longer learning from our past. We're letting our past tell us who we're allowed to become. And this is where the faith side of this has really been sitting with me. Because as a Christian woman, what do I even mean when I say self-trust? Am I supposed to put all of my confidence in myself? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that I'm the source. I don't have all the wisdom, and I'm not always right, like 99% of the time. And so my feelings, they don't always tell me the truth. And my first instinct isn't automatically God speaking to me just because I feel strongly about it. And even though I can be emotional, afraid, hopeful, and stubborn, impatient, and completely convinced of something that later I realized that I was wrong about. And that's why I keep coming back to Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That verse doesn't tell me to stop thinking, stop deciding, or hand my life over to whoever sounds the most certain. It tells me where my ultimate trust belongs. I could put my faith, my hope, my trust, and my confidence in God without becoming passive in my own life. I can also pray, seek Him, listen, use wisdom, pray for more wisdom, and use my discernment and ask for more of that as well. I can also receive counsel without literally handing somebody else this full, complete authority over my life. And then when it's time to make a decision, make the best one I can with what I have in front of me and trust Him with what I cannot see. Remember, confidence is in Him. That feels very different to me because maybe some of us have confused trust with certainty. We think if we really trusted ourselves, we would know exactly what to do and know it was going to work out. But how would we possibly even know that? I don't hold the future. God does. I can make a faithful decision and still be surprised by what actually happens next. So maybe confidence isn't knowing I'll never get it wrong. Maybe it's knowing that if I do, I can learn from it. I can take that and turn it inward and discern it. I could do all of that without turning it into another weapon used against me, right? We can flip the script without turning on it and then dying on our own sword. So we literally talked about this last week. I didn't like the way I responded in one situation. And my mind immediately wanted to make that one moment proof that I hadn't changed as much as I thought I did. And that's how quickly we can erase our progress and let one failure become so loud that everything else just filters out in the background. The past should give us wisdom and help us make better choices. But there comes a point when the past isn't teaching anymore. It's sentencing. And I don't believe that's freedom. If I believe God is capable of redeeming, rebuilding, refining, and making all things new again, then I have to ask whether I'm allowing something He has already forgiven, redeemed, or used to teach me to have more authority over my identity than He does. Do I become what I've done, or do I become who He says I am because of what He did? That doesn't excuse anything or erase consequences, but I also don't think grace means very much if I believe it's available for everybody except me. There has to be room to say, I got that wrong, and I'm still learning, and I'm still becoming. And I think that's where self-trust starts getting rebuilt. That from this day forward, it's not that you're going to completely trust yourself and never second guess another thing. That's not realistic. But I think it gets rebuilt through what you're doing now, today. What are you telling yourself you're going to do? And then are you following through? What do you already know that you keep asking everybody else to confirm? Where have you made a past mistake into an identity? Maybe you don't need 10 new promises this week. Maybe you just need one honest decision that you can actually keep and own that. Commit to that. Because when we spread ourselves thin, we're breaking these promises, and those broken promises go back into the evidence bucket, and the evidence bucket keeps getting filled, and that's where we keep pulling from to say, yep, this is who I am, this is what I've done, look at my track record. And that's the part of why I've become so passionate about documenting this whole process that I'm in. I'm in this whole season of becoming my version of the confident woman, of my best and most confident self. So instead of waiting until I'm supposedly standing on this other side and telling everybody what I learned, because listen, I don't think we've ever arrived, because this journey continues. So whatever you're being told and sold, that's not real life. This is me in it. I'm in this right now. I'm literally watching myself change my mind, question things I used to believe, notice where these old identities are still showing up, and making decisions from this woman that I still get to know. I'm learning about her every day. And I think a lot of you are there too. And maybe that's why this conversation feels so connected to becoming the confident woman for me. Because recognizing the pattern is one thing, but actually changing it, something completely else. You can hear this conversation if you realize exactly where you've stopped trusting yourself, see how much of your past you've been using as evidence against yourself, and still wake up tomorrow questioning the same decisions, repeating the same thoughts, and reaching outside of yourself for the same answers. And at some point, you need somewhere to actually work through what you are seeing, to get honest about what you believe in yourself, what you want, what you keep talking yourself out of, and what needs to change, and if you're going to stop living from an old track record and start creating a different one. And that's what becoming the confident woman gives you. For 8 weeks, I'm in your ear walking alongside you as you do the work, with the workbook there to help you get what's swirling around in your head out in front of you, where you can actually see it, question it, and begin doing something different with it and about it. Because maybe you don't need more proof that you can't trust yourself, but maybe you need the time, the space, support, and the willingness to just start creating proof that you can. And so the question I want to leave you with this week is this. Where have you been using something from your past as evidence that you can't trust yourself now? And is that evidence actually telling you the truth about who you are today? You don't have to prove that you can trust yourself with the entire future. I'm not asking myself to do that either. I'm learning to make the best decision I can today from truth, from wisdom, using my discernment and checking in with God and asking, God, who do you say I am? And then trust Him with the part of the story I was never supposed to control in the first place. If this is where you are right now and you're ready to keep working through it with me, I've linked Becoming the Confident Woman in the show notes below. So check it out and give yourself grace, because we are in this together. So until next week, take care and God bless.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thanks again for listening.